Alrighty guys, welcome. This is Tranquil Flow, again with the anti-scam token team. Today we've got a video about liquidity on Uniswap. So today we'll be taking a look at what liquidity is in the context of Uniswap and how it differs to liquidity in normal markets and on cryptocurrency markets. We'll also be taking a look at how you can interact with liquidity yourself by adding liquidity, and we'll also be taking a look at locking up liquidity. So first of all, what is liquidity? Well, on a normal market, liquidity can be defined in a couple of different ways. One of them is you can take a look at the total volume. So for instance, today we have got some Ethereum here on CoinMarketCap, and you can see lots of volume is coming in. So liquidity is generally defined as the ability to easily transfer funds from one market to another, or well, within one market, one asset to another. For example, from ETH to USDT, or from US dollars to gold, or US dollars to stocks, whatever. Another way of looking at it is to look at the order books. You can look at the total order books. And so, this is RDX. It's a decentralized exchange, but they have a order book system, much like a centralized exchange. And so you can see they have, for this pair, 189 ETH and 5.2 million RDX. And so there's also another way to examine it, and that's to compare the bid-ask spread. But for our purposes, we'll be taking a look at liquidity on Uniswap, which actually is a little bit different. So what is liquidity on Uniswap? Basically, so let's just take a look at an example. So this is anti-scam token. Currently, I'm sitting at $16,170. And liquidity on Uniswap is basically provided by the people. And these people that provide liquidity are rewarded by getting a fee from every trade. So if you go to your trade screen, normally you have your swap, right? You'll notice this little tab here, pool. If you click on it, it will let you add liquidity for a pair. So if let's just add AST. So this is AirSwap token. This is not anti-scam token, despite what some people may think. We do use the same ticker, unfortunately. But yeah, this is definitely not an anti-scam token, just so you know, guys. So when you add liquidity, you have to add an equal amount of Ethereum and the token that you're adding liquidity for. And the reason you need to add an equal amount is because when you add liquidity, you're basically saying, all right, I'm going to put the funds onto Uniswap, and then if people want to buy or sell, they will be able to use my funds to do that. And so you could actually end up with a different ratio of your funds after you remove your liquidity. For example, if there was a lot of people buying this token, you as a liquidity provider are selling the token and receiving Ethereum. So when you remove your liquidity, you would actually have a higher percentage of Ethereum to the token. So this is something to keep in mind, because you can actually end up losing money just based on the market shifting in certain directions. So it's something to definitely keep in mind. Now, for this example, one Ethereum is currently apparently worth 3,900 AirSwap tokens. I'm actually just going to change this because it's just going to get too confusing for me. So we'll go with sell. I don't know what this is, just some coin. So, yep, that's the price. The price just reversed, I guess. So this is telling you how much share of the pool you will get. So that means you own 0.1%. I would own 0.1% if I add this in. That means I would receive 0.1% of all trading fees that occur on Uniswap for this pair. And yeah, you can see a little bit of information here. Sorry. Pretty self-explanatory, really. So you can actually earn a bit of passive income on Uniswap this way. And it's, again, you need to look into it for each different pair because you could end up losing money, but it's best suited when you really don't mind holding either of the tokens, well, either Ethereum or the token. So, for example, if you didn't mind holding Ethereum or anti-scam token, you could add Liquidity, which is represented here on Uniswap.info, and then you might end up with more Ethereum percentage-wise, or you might end up with more anti-scam token percentage-wise. But it doesn't matter if you want to hold both, then you'd be fine with that. And on Uniswap.info, you come down to the transactions, and you can very easily see the liquidity being added. This is the ads. So you can see people adding Ethereum and AST at the same time. And that's the value, the total value of both. And then we've got removes, which is people removing the liquidity. And so this liquidity graph is showing the total value of all the liquidity. So this will often go up with the price. You can see there's quite a strong correlation because obviously the token price is going up. So that's liquidity on Uniswap, covered quite simply. And so I'm going to move on to locking liquidity because there's been definitely a recent trend in proof of liquidity tokens. And basically what proof of liquidity means is that the team has locked up their tokens, their pool tokens, and so that they can't just take out all liquidity. Because how scams often run is they'll pump up the liquidity, and then people will buy in, and then these people will just take all the liquidity. And because these people are buying the tokens, right, they're putting Ethereum into the liquidity. And so the liquidity provider, which is the developer in this case, can then take all the liquidity, basically taking all the Ethereum that's being added into it. So proof of liquidity, it's not perfect. We'll get into that. Well, let's go through a few examples first. So this is the Liquidity Vault contract for Unipower. Now, Unipower was the first project to actually lock up 100% of their liquidity onto Uniswap. So this is the contract code. And so we scroll down, you can see they've added it. When you see this, by the way, that just means this doesn't have any function in the code. It's just like a little note. So basically, there is a hard cap of 1% per 24 hours. So the liquidity could not be withdrawn very quickly. People would know. You'd have time to get out if you felt concerned. We keep going down. They also have some coding for a liquidity migration. So this basically means that, and then you can see they've got a timer on it. So it appears, from what I can read, it appears that before they can actually migrate the liquidity, they have to have a 14-day period where basically they're saying, hey, we're moving liquidity in 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, then they can move the liquidity. And so then, and so so when you, I'll just go back, when you do add liquidity, when you add liquidity to the pool, you'll get what's called a pool token. This is called, this usually is called something like this, Uniswap V2, Uni V2. And that's basically your representing your ownership of the pool. And so now if we go to, so for the Uniswap, you can see here it is. So this liquidity vault contract is currently holding power and also a bunch of liquidity tokens for Unipower. So if we click on this, this is now the contract address. So this is just the address for the liquidity tokens or pool tokens for Uniswap. And it's currently being filtered by the contract. So if we just take that off, it's currently no longer being filtered. And so we can see there's 19 addresses. So my understanding is that actually means there's 19 liquidity providers for Unipower at the moment. And if we go to holders, we can see, and this is the liquidity vault address, the contract. And that is by far holding the vast majority of liquidity for Unipower. And that makes sense because the devs put so much, 100% of their tokens into liquidity. And so you can see some other people have also decided to add some liquidity. And so that's one way to do it. So when you have a time lock on liquidity, you really need to look into the contract and you need to verify that A, the contract is legit. You also need to then B, look into how much of the percent, basically you look into how many tokens were used to add liquidity. So for example, you could theoretically send 5% of your token supply to Uniswap. And then you could lock that up and you could say, hey, we've done a time lock on our liquidity. But you're really not sending a large percentage of the regular token supply. So it's not really providing much of a, it's not as strong as like, well, Unipower is always going to be the gold standard at 100% of their supply. But it's just something to be careful of. And so then I'm actually going to show you, this is the transaction for anti-scam token. So we actually technically didn't lock up our liquidity. We burnt it all. Now, this has some pros and cons. Pros, we can never rug the liquidity. No one can. It is physically impossible because the liquidity pool tokens have been sent to the burn address and are unrecoverable. So that's a pro, in my eyes at least. It really demonstrates that we're not here to just rug the money from people. But a con is that this liquidity is now unrecoverable. And that means that if we wanted to migrate to a new smart contract, then we would lose this liquidity, which would be a shame, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. If moving to a new contract is what we want to do in the future, we'll adapt and we'll make plans for that. So this is the transaction. And so if you click on here, so currently we have, so this is the holders for liquidity. We currently have the burn address holding vast majority, and we've got one other provider at the moment. So something else I just want to add is that Adding liquidity. I'm sorry, I've completely forgotten what I was going to say. Well, yeah, I think that's it for now. Oh, that's so going to annoy me. There's something else I wanted to say, but I suppose if it comes up, I'll let it in later. I suppose, and no, I remember now. So I just want to say, there's scammers are always going to be adapting, and so like roughly a month ago, there's a big push for proof of liquidity, and so now we are seeing more projects come out as proof of liquidity, but we're also seeing some scam projects use the proof of liquidity buzzword to lure people into trusting them. So yeah, you really don't just take it on face value that the liquidity is locked. Check for yourself. Look at the contract. Take a look at how much of a percentage of the supply is locked up in that contract. So if you go to anti-scam token, and you go to the holders, you can see this is the liquidity address. So currently 10.75% of our supply is in the liquidity address. And so, yeah, just take a look at that, see who owns it, and just do your own research. That's what it really comes down to in avoiding these scams. People are always going to use buzzwords. Scammers are always going to scam, unfortunately, and scammers are always going to adapt. And it's just our responsibility to adapt with them and constantly try stay one step ahead of them. Yeah. So look, guys, that's everything for today. I'm just going to keep it nice and short and sweet again. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, and take care. Cheers.